Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. My name is Gary and I hope you're all having a fantastic day or evening. Wherever you are in today's story, Opie was married to his wife for 26 years and found out his wife cheated on him after his 3 kids revealed to him that his wife was out at a bar, then drove to the place his wife was at and saw her with the affair partner in his car doing. You know what? P then beat the affair partner and got arrested, but it was worth it in the end. Now his wife is begging for mercy. Let's get into today's story. My name is Hector and I'm a 47-year-old Puerto Rican. My soon-to-be ex-wife, Debbie, and I were married for 26 years and were together for 30. We got married our senior year in high school when she got pregnant with our firstborn. I was lucky enough to get a job at UPS right after graduation. She's from a traditional Irish family and they hated me at first, but I won them over by the time we were 27 years old. We had 5 kids, 4 girls and a boy. I was just fortunate that the boy came out first. We had our arguments over money, discipline methods and me complaining about the lack of sex. I understood that we had 5 children and they could be very exhausting to take care of. As the years went by, we were the only married couple in our friend group. Every last one of them got divorced. Out of our 7 married couple friends, 5 divorces were caused by infidelity on the wife's part. 1 on the husband's part, and the last one they divorced because she friend-zoned her husband. I wasn't against my wife hanging out with her newly single friends. However, that would just start a massive argument about me controlling her, keeping her as a prisoner and my personal living sex doll. All of that caught me by surprise. The more she hung out with them, the more resentful she became. The kids took notice. I remembered my son and 2 of my daughters arguing with her when I came home. And as much as I understood their frustration, I scolded my kids for yelling at their mother. And when they left the room, I confirmed their issue and she told me that we see her as a slave. I asked her where this was coming from, but she said, "Forget it," shut down and walked away. I remember Discovery Day so vividly. Debbie was out with her friends. I was in the kitchen cooking, the kids were watching Train to Busan and my 3 oldest came to the kitchen. I thought they came to check on the food, but they all had a concern to look before I asked, what was the issue? My son told me that they think their mother was having an affair. Of course, at first I didn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. I yelled at them and told them I was going to prove they were wrong. I turned on the "Where's My iPhone" app and saw that she was at a bar on the outskirts of town. I hopped in my truck and I went. When I arrived at the bar, it was crowded, but I saw her circle of friends in the corner booth acting like drunk idiots. When I approached them, they all turned pale and that unsettling feeling hit my stomach since I didn't see her in the bar. I went outside and walked around the parking lot. There was a car in the back corner. It looked like the man on the driver's side was sleeping. A man who I thought was my friend. I approached the car to ask if he had seen my wife. But when I got closer, it was obvious that he was getting oral sex. And the closer I got, the more I recognized the woman in the car. I was practically standing by the driver's side window and none of them noticed me. I lost my temper. I broke the window, dragged him out, and I wasn't civil. Debbie was screaming, "Sorry," over and over. I was yelling at her while kicking him. The cops showed up soon after that and I was arrested for assault and battery. I spent a week and a half in county and I had to go into the infirmary because I thought I was having a heart attack. But it turned out I was suffering from broken heart syndrome. The news of what I did spread like wildfire, and eventually my father-in-law bailed me out. The man was practically in tears when I stepped through those gates. He profusely apologized to me for his daughter's actions during the drive home. He told me he had spoken to my manager and the union representative about the situation so I can still keep my job. He said that the kids had been staying with him and Debbie was waiting for me in the house. He said he knows what was going to happen, which is why he brought the truck. He was right. When we got to the house, Debbie ran to me crying and tried to hug me, but I shoved her so hard that she fell to the ground. She looked at me with shock. I told her to get her stuff out of my house and that I wanted a divorce. She tried to fight it, but her father convinced her otherwise. An hour after they left, my mother-in-law came with the kids and I hugged them all for dear life. She apologized for her daughter's actions as well before leaving. Now in my state, there's a mandatory couples counseling before granting a divorce, which in my opinion is complete BS because I don't understand why I have to go to counseling if she cheated at the beginning of the sessions. I just sat there listening to her dribble, blame shifting on the fact we were young parents and she never had experienced the wild lifestyle. She got lost in it and her friends encouraged her soon. She felt like she was missing something and she started to fling the counselor. Tried a few times to make it my fault. They told me that I should have allowed her to spread her wings every once in a while and that I needed to see it from her point of view. I just looked at the woman and asked the counselor if she was smoking crack. I asked Debbie how long she was cheating on me with him, and she said 4 months and insisted that he was the only one. I then asked her more questions. Who initiated the sex? You or him? How many times did you go down on him? Did he finish inside of you through her stream of tears? She answered them honestly. And I was quiet for a long while. The counselor tried talking to me twice during this, and I raised my finger. I thought about everything we did before and during her affair window. The laughter, the conversations, the sex, everything, and there was no inkling of her being sad or angry. We were just being us. When I finally did speak, I brought up the times we had sex during that window. I proceeded to call her every name in the book. Eventually I told her she was tainted in my eyes. Again, the counselor and Debbie tried to convince me that our history and relationship can get past this mistake and I didn't want to hear it anymore. It was like they didn't care about my feelings on the matter. It was just about forgiving her and what I can do to get over it and apologize to her for making her feel like a servant. So I walked out. This contested divorce has been a long uphill battle for the past 2 years. Debbie is still trying to make things right and still trying to get us back together. I don't know why, because our conversations are strictly about the kids. And when she tried to talk to me about something else, I would hang up on her. Her family gatherings are consisted of me avoiding her or not showing up at all. Our oldest children refused to talk to her. I tried to make them spend time with their mom, but they refuse, and I have chosen to respect that. My in-laws are at my house weekly and I know they have been trying to make their daughter give me my divorce. But that has been a bust. My mother-in-law has been especially harsh on her, calling her a dumb rat, gossiping about her to her congregation. I had to ask her to stop because I didn't want the whole town to know about our business. During the first year, my son and daughter created a Tinder account for me. I thought it was dumb because I'm a middle-aged man with 5 children who has a dad bod yet. I have been on over a dozen very successful dates that have been a real confidence booster. Recently, I met someone during my court-issued community service. Her name is Isabel and she was our Habitat for Humanity supervisor. She's dropped dead gorgeous and won first place for a Vanessa Marshall look-alike contest at a soap opera convention. She and her daughter attended. That's how we started talking. My daughters love watching General Hospital and I sat with them. To me, this is one of the few times I get to spend with them. I introduced her to my kids 6 months in and they instantly took a shine to her, to make things really awkward. My son and her daughter appear to really like each other. However, Debbie is not letting go. She actually told our youngest 2 children that eventually we will get back together. I had to tell her to stop telling them this. Her father is trying to make her go see a therapist, but I just want this over already. I don't regret my years with Debbie. I have 5 wonderful kids with her. I manned up and built a life for her. My only regret is that she ruined 26 years together on a fling. I regret that she thought she had me in a way that I was just going to let it slide and take her back. However, I do hate her when I run into her old group of friends around town. I openly call them home wreckers instead of their names. That love and respect that I had for her disappeared when I caught her in that car. She will always be the mother of my children and nothing else. I just hope that she can come to terms with that. I hope this is where updates are placed. Apologies if it's not, and apologies if this sounds incoherent. I'm tired, sitting in the hospital on my third can of Bang and waiting for my ex to be transferred into a mental hospital. Her daughter is her home, Isabella is sleeping beside me, and she hasn't left my side. My son has been with his mother after she left the surgery. His girlfriend has been by his side as well. Last weekend was the start of this nightmare. The week prior was the lead up to my in-laws' 55th wedding anniversary. And they asked me to bring Isabel since we made it official. They have kindly asked me not to bring her to functions to avoid tension, and I obliged this time. They asked if she could come for the past month. My ex has been a bit erratic. She had several physical altercations with her old friends. One of them got a broken nose, one had a busted lip, and the last one was shoved out of a Circle K each time the police were called. And considering how small our county was, they just took her to her parents' house. I tried telling my in-laws that she should be taken to the hospital for evaluation, and it blew up into a shouting match. But in the end, I conceded I should have fought harder on Saturday. We all showed up at my in-laws' anniversary party, and to me, Debbie appeared off. I pulled her to the side, and it was the first time I had actually spoken to her. I asked if she was all right, and she faked a smile trying to tell me that she was okay. But I called her out on it, and she cried a little. She told me how sorry she was. She told me that she couldn't understand why she didn't tell her old friends to back off, or why she gave in to the peer pressure. She told me that she destroyed our family, and seeing how I was with Isabel only made her miss me more, and wished she appreciated what she had. When she said that I felt fear in the pit of my stomach, or maybe it was anxiety. I should have kept asking if she was all right. But I was blindsided when Debbie formally apologized to Isabel for her actions and asked her to keep me happy because I'm a good man who deserves a good woman. During the party, Debbie went to each of our kids, and I could see them making peace with her. I don't know what was said, but they hugged and kissed her. They were talking and laughing and even posed for a few pictures. Isabel and I were having a great time. And for once, I thought about having cordial conversations with Debbie. It was 3 in the morning when I got the call. My sister-in-law was screaming in a panic, and I could hear my mother-in-law crying, and then I heard my brother-in-law trying to calmly tell me that Debbie tried to end her life and they were on their way to the hospital. I rushed out of the house in my PJs. Isabel and my daughters didn't need to ask what happened. My side of the conversation painted the picture, and my daughters were severely distraught. Debbie slit her wrists and would have bled out if it hadn't been for her brother needing to use the bathroom in the middle of the night. When I arrived at the hospital, my in-laws were not well. She lost a lot of blood and was in surgery to repair the arteries. I should have called my kids, but my mind was occupied. It took me to see my son casually walking towards me to ask me why I was in the hospital when reality hit me, and I struggled not to cry. As I told him what happened, I called the rest of my kids, and they already knew. My youngest called them, and they were almost at the hospital. She was in surgery for 6 hours. And my father-in-law and I donated our blood for her since the hospital was short on her blood type. My son couldn't be a part of the operation, but he observed the surgery. All of my daughters were not doing well. My eldest daughter, especially, all she kept talking about was the could have, should have, would have. And I told her to just focus on the now and not the past. My younger 3 daughters were pacing around. And when my son left the OR, he told us that she was going to be fine. And when I hugged him, he collapsed into my arms crying. I wanted to cry as well, but I had to be strong for them. Late Sunday, my mother-in-law found the suicide notes. She wrote one for each of the kids and a thick one for me. In my envelope were the signed divorced papers and an 8-page letter of apology. The letter just reinforced that she was never unhappy about our marriage. She just gave in to the peer pressure and how she called it being brainwashed, that she was a servant by her so-called friends. She stated that she was so sorry for how she treated me, the kids, and for having that affair. When Debbie woke up at first, she refused to talk. She would just stare out the window for 2 days. It was like that. And it was around that time I asked about how to update. I needed a distraction. Then she slowly began acknowledging everyone, but she was distant, almost as if she was disappointed that she was still alive as the days passed. She didn't get better, although she was more conversational. Debbie asked to speak to Isabel alone when she came out. She told me that Debbie asked her if she loves me because she could see that I love her. Isabel told her that she did love me and told her that I was the first man she had been with since her husband died 15 years ago in Afghanistan. Debbie is going to be in a mental hospital for observation. The doctor told her parents that it could be a year, maybe 2, before she gets released. She may no longer be my wife or the woman that I devoted all my love to, but she's still the mother of my children, and I'm going to make sure she gets better for our kid Sake. Wow, what a crazy story. In my opinion, it sounds like your wife is trying to use her friends as an excuse for why she cheated on you. I'm honestly not buying it. The reason being is that she's a grown woman who can make her own decisions. If she was that easily influenced by her friends to cheat on you, then she's definitely not someone you could ever trust. A lot of things happened to your wife throughout the story that showed karma's way of serving justice. You also happen to find yourself a new woman, which is great. I would still recommend that you make sure to keep your distance from your wife, despite her trying to take her own life. However, as you mentioned, since she is the mother of your children, you will still have to have some sort of relationship with her, but keep it strictly about the kids and nothing else. This is definitely a messy situation your wife has put you in, and I hope you and your children are able to get through this. Also, regarding your son dating the daughter of the new woman you're now seeing, I definitely find that pretty weird. So I would sit down with your son and have a talk about that. Good luck. Thanks for taking your time to listen to today's story. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and comment below on what your thoughts are on today's story. If there's a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me.